Joining us now is the Director of Business and Career Services at JVS Human Services and Kadima. Jason Charnas joins us now on the Oakland County MegaCast. Jason, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely, Tyler. Thanks very much for letting me talk and letting me share about these great programs we've got.
Yeah, so we've talked with JVS and Kadima in the past about a number of different career programs, career training opportunities, virtual webinars, and so on, and a number of different topics that are related to going into the job market at this particular time, at this unique time in our history. At this time, a lot of these job interviews, and pardon me as my earpiece falls out, during the pandemic, we've had a number of these interviews transition from being in person, as they've traditionally been, to being over a virtual setting, whether that be Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or Google or some other format. But there's also some unique changes to even virtual interviews, as well as some of them are only one way. Can you tell us about the unique opportunities and some of the drawbacks or strategical musts for somebody that's going into a job interview in a one-way virtual job interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the pandemic over the last couple of years, many people have become really familiar with Zoom and video interviewing, video meetings, video conversations. There are many companies prior to the pandemic, and frankly ramped up even more, that are now utilizing one-way video interviewing as a piece of the interview process. It's being used as a screening tool. So traditionally, an HR representative or recruiter would have a short conversation with the job applicant, check off a couple boxes, make sure that they were mostly appropriate for the role or met those significant criteria, and then move them on to that next round. So what this does for a business, for a company, is it allows them to screen many applicants at the same time, regardless of their own internal staffing structure. They may have one HR person, they may have a whole team of people, but what they can do is send a link and screen people with the exact same questions, and they can review those responses when it works for them. And so for an applicant, the timing, the scheduling is great. You may have a job, you may have restrictions, you don't have to pigeonhole your schedule into what works for the company. Instead, you can log into your computer given a time parameter, and you can complete that interview process. It helps also for companies that utilize a lot of technology, or perhaps a job that is remote or partially remote. It also helps the company to assess what technological skills, computer skills people would have if that were to be a part of the process. The downside, the challenge for somebody who's applying for a job, talking to a computer one way and still showing personality, still showing that you can communicate with people, can be really challenging. Instead of getting body language, feedback, conversation, you have to do it on your own, and you have to be able to answer those questions on your own and to sound confident.
And so how do you suggest that people then prepare for these formats of interviews? Because I would imagine it's a little bit off-putting, or at the very least, it just seems very impersonal to be answering these questions as you would traditionally be answering them to another person, reading their body language, communicating with them, and instead communicating those answers in a limited time, or in some cases maybe unlimited, to a computer screen where you're staring at the screen or you're staring at your camera. There's nobody there, and you don't even know if anyone's ever going to hear it.
Absolutely. So there's two sort of different types of preparation. The first type is preparing for one of these interviews is the same as preparing for any video interview, right? So you want to make sure your location is appropriate. Excuse me. So quiet, hopefully in a place where you can close the door if there are other people or pets around. You want to do your best to have good lighting, good camera angle. background to make it as appropriate as you can, right? You don't want to have dirty clothes, ideally not a bed or anything like that. Again, especially if you're talking about a job where you may be working remote fully, they may also, the company, be assessing whether you have the appropriate workspace to be able to do that. So, the other thing is, of course, when you're able to do whatever virtual video interview, one way or two way, by way of a computer versus using a phone. And if you're using a phone, which sometimes that's the only option, propped, right? Rested on something, tripod, if that's a thing in your house, but so that it's stable and not rocky and all over the place. So that's the generic, how do I prepare? How do I get ready for this virtual thing? The second part of it, though, the one way. So I don't know if I can stress this enough, but read the instructions, read the directions carefully, understand what you're being asked to do, understand the parameters. If there's a due date, and there typically is a specified time frame that it needs to be completed by, meet the deadline. If you're serious about the job and the job search, that says quite a bit about you to the employer. I did it within the within the time frame that was required. Practice the best that you can. There are lots of resources, including JVS, where we can help you practice for your interview. You want to be personable, you want to be confident, but be authentic. And I know that doesn't always sound right? But having a conversation alone, you want to use a normal tone, pitch, cadence that you do when you're speaking. Don't overly exaggerate, but be confident, be authentic. Looking at the camera is important, right, in the camera angle, like I said before. And then the other part is dress appropriately. So this is not a pajamas, jeans, and t-shirt likely type of an interview. Even if the environment is more casual, you want to be able to dress professionally for that job. The other thing that not all HR recruiters, not all companies, but many will say, if you have questions, if you're not sure, call us, email us, contact us. The HR field has changed, unemployment, lots of openings. They're willing to help. They want to help. They want to be successful themselves, which is by onboarding people, and they want to help people to be successful. So in terms of preparation, those are some of the really great ways that one could be prepared.
We're joined by Jason Charnas, the Director of Business and Career Services at JVS and Kadima, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. More information on the website, jvshumanservices.org. That's jvshumanservices.org. Can you talk to us about, there's a particular method called the STAR interview method. Can you talk about how that comes into play, especially in a one-way interview?
So the STAR method is a great method for preparing and answering questions. It's an acronym. S means situation. You want to set the scene. Talk about what the situation is. You're going to make sure you give detail. Detail is always really important. T in STAR is task. You want to talk about what your situation was. What your responsibility in that situation. A is action. What steps did you take and are results? What were the results that were achieved? So this STAR method is really beneficial for behavioral interview questions. Behavioral interview, things like, tell me about a time when. What do you do when? Have you ever? Give me an example. Describe a situation. So real life examples. So they want to know what that looked like. So it could be really specific, right? Tell me about a time when you didn't meet a client's expectations. And we can replace client for customer, client for coworker, client for supervisor, but share an example. And by the way, the examples that you're going to share or that somebody may choose to share are not always about success. Sometimes the example is it didn't work out at the end, the results, the R, didn't work out the way I had hoped. I didn't meet those clients' expectations. But the follow-up, the part of the conversation is, What did you do? Why didn't you? How would you change? What would you do next time? What did you learn? Businesses, employers, they want to know not only that you have the skills and experience to do a specific set of tasks or responsibilities, they also want to know that you have the ability to learn, to change, to grow within that job. We do not all bat 1,000, right? Sometimes the situation may make it so you can't be successful, which is fine. But to describe what that could look like, it could be, tell me about a time you achieved a goal that you thought was out of reach. There are a lot of situations, a lot of really specifics, but that STAR method specific to the behavioral interview questions is really a great way to answer this question.
Jason, for these one-way interviews that are being conducted virtually, are there any specific do's and don'ts within this format of interviewing for a job that applicants should be aware of before they go in? They may be a great interviewer, they may follow the directions to a T, but there should be other things that they are aware of, anything of that nature.
Tyler, that's a great question. So here's my little secret. I have never participated in a one-way interview. And I know we at JVS hear a lot of our clients asking about them and how can we help them? Because I don't know much about it, I went to a source. So we have a webinar scheduled for Wednesday, April 20th, tomorrow at noon on Zoom. And I've invited the professionals, people that are using one-way interviews as a screening tool. So I have two people. I have Sean Berry, who's the VP of Talent Acquisition at Allstate, and Candace Jareds, who is the team lead for campus recruiting, again, with Allstate. They use this system. And at this workshop, at this webinar that we have tomorrow, they're going to show screenshots. They're going to show the sort of behind the scenes of what they see, what a candidate would see, and they're going to talk about those successes. How do you answer those questions? How do you prepare? One of the things that many of and there's a lot of different formats and companies that are sort of third-party add-ons that businesses will use, but you don't typically have an unlimited amount of time to answer a question, right? And again, these aren't meant to be really, really in-depth. Typically, it's just screening. They want to make sure you have some of the basic check marks, skills, and experience to be moving forward. So when it comes to this and you read the question, you want to be able to answer the question that they're asking. And you want to answer the question in that specified time. Often, I understand that there is a countdown clock, some version of you're getting your time is wrapping up, and so to be able to answer and to follow that's the piece of it. And again, to the best that you're able to show that you have the skills and experience for the role that you've applied for, and to answer the questions clearly is a pretty significant part of that success.
We're joined by Jason Charnas from JVS and Kadima. He's their Director of Business and Career Services, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Jason, any other upcoming events with JVS and Kadima through their Career Services Department that we should be keeping an eye out for as we go forward? Obviously, you mentioned this upcoming webinar on virtual interviews, particularly these one-way interviews, but any other programs coming up that may be of interest to people?
Great question. So we have a lot of programs. We're always adding new onto our calendar. The best way to get up-to-date information about our programs, frankly, we have three different ways. They can follow JVS Detroit on LinkedIn, and there we post all of our events. Number two, JVS Detroit on Facebook. Again, we post all of our events. And then the third place, depending on where your comfort is and how you navigate the web, jvshumanservices.org. On our website, there is a spot that says upcoming events. And again, that's a place we're regularly posting. But in addition to workshops and webinars, many of our programs are free and open to the full community. So if somebody is contemplating a job search or a career switch, we have the staff that can work one-on-one with people and really then to individualize what those resources and what that assistance can look like for people preparing or actively in a job search.
And so, Jason, if people want to participate in the upcoming one-way interviews webinar through JVS and Kadima, or any of these other programs, where can they go to get more information?
Great. So again, this one, they can go to our Facebook page or the website. We have a Zoom registration link for this event. This event does require registration so that you can get a copy of the Zoom link. People that are interested in registering or just want to talk, they can always call 248-233-4230 is a great way to reach me directly. Employment help at jvshumanservices.org is a great way to email and ask some questions, set up a time to talk in our office, over the phone, on Zoom. We're meeting people where they're comfortable.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Tyler, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.